think what we'll do is we'll actually switch the order around a bit just to make it a little bit more intuitive in terms of like the actual flow of things. So, you know, Chris did a great job of explaining exactly what NationBuilder was, how to create the basics, how to set up and configure the basics. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is importing Twitter and Facebook followers. That's kind of one of the first things that you should do in NationBuilder, just because it's extremely helpful in finding out who your supporters are, but also matching them with the voters list, finding out where they are in the ward, et cetera. And that, again, gives you better opportunities to have a dialogue. So what you would do is you would go to communication, you would add a broadcaster, and as you can see, we already have one here. But if you add a new broadcaster, it'll first ask you for the name and email. So you just populate the name and email that you want it to come from. So this is the email address that you would be sending out from NationBuilder. So there's a few things here. If you go to Twitter settings, then that's where you'll set up your Twitter account. It's very simple. All you do is click Twitter, connect your Twitter account. It will bring you over to Twitter. It'll allow you to it'll allow you to log into your Twitter account, and then you just go from there. Yeah, it's better to just kind of do the. So so Chris right now is in their Twitter account at Ground Forest Live, and then there's also Facebook as well. Again, it's the same process. Now, a couple of things that's good here, and you can decide in terms of the settings, is tagging Facebook posters. So anybody who posts to your Facebook page, you can tag them with something, and then that tag goes into your nation. The other thing that is sometimes useful is adding people who post to the Facebook page to a path or step. And that's a more advanced thing that I wasn't actually going to talk about today, so we'll leave that for another time. But paths, if you have a chance to play around with them, or if there's another segment that, Chris, that you do, that is definitely a big thing. And I can share all of the paths that we use later as well. And basically, if you're familiar with ladders of engagement, paths are essentially ladders of engagement, but they actually follow that person within NationBuilder, so you can actually see where they are. You know, are they a prospective donor? Have they donated? Have you thanked them for donating? Those are all types of things. So yeah, paths are very extensive. You can use them for almost anything. You can create your own custom paths and your own custom settings for those paths. And they're hopefully NationBuilder will come out with a few more features for those as well, because they're a bit limited right now. So then the next thing is Twitter. Now with Twitter settings, there's a lot more kind of settings that you can enable with Twitter there. Yeah, you were in Ground Forest before. And apologize in advance if I'm talking too quickly. Just want to make sure I get through everything. So Twitter. So, you know, NationBuilder allows you to auto follow or unfollow someone when they follow or unfollow you on Twitter. Sometimes that's useful. To be honest, I don't use it just because we manually go through and follow people and unfollow people. You can automatically import followers. Same thing with Facebook. You can automatically import anyone who's just mentioned you and import anyone who has retweeted you. And again, those are all very useful data points to have when we get to some of the later things that I'll be talking about. So that's just importing your Twitter and your Facebook followers.
Yeah, typically, Tyler, I agree. I usually see campaigns mostly checking on these three and not automatically following or unfollowing.
Yes. And again, sorry, at the bottom there, you can tag people who tweet to you. And again, sometimes it's useful. Now, the other thing I want to quickly show you before we go from there is a bit of tagging. So Facebook tagging. If you go to your communication channel again, Chris, and then you go to under communication and then Ground Force, and then your Facebook. This time not settings, just Facebook. So this is quite useful as well. So anytime you're posting on your Facebook, let's say you've posted something about childcare, for example. What you're going to be able to do is on that first post, Chris, if you hover over the arrow on the right-hand side, you'll see tag people who like this post. So this is a new feature that NationBuilder came out with earlier this year. And you can basically tag everyone who has liked that specific post with something specific. So let's say it was childcare, you'd be able to tag them with childcare. And then in the future, you're able to then go back and say, hey, this person likes all of our posts that have to do with childcare or have to do with cycling or have to do with infrastructure or development or whatever it may be. And you can, again, you're going to be able to use that in some filtering and advanced kind of strategic management that we'll get into. So that's the Facebook and Twitter followers. The next thing that I'll get into is the importing of Facebook events. So again, going back to social media. So Facebook events are really great to import. How you'll do that is you'll go to your website and then you'll go to your events page. So when you first start your nation, it automatically creates a bunch of pages for you that are default. One of them is events, but again, you can customize that as you see fit. If you go to events and subpages, here is where you'll import your events. So these are example events that are already created. You can either do that or you can create a new event. But to, let's say we want to just connect this event to a Facebook event. You'd go to social. And then here, all you're doing is you're going to the Facebook event and you are copying and pasting the URL from that Facebook event into this box here, and then you're just saying connect to existing Facebook event. Now, what I would suggest is when you're doing that, do you have a Facebook event readily available?
Tyler, I'm just grabbing an event. If you just give me a moment, if you continue
Not
on,
a problem.
I'll get one. Yeah.
Okay. So so where this is helpful is not only for events that you're hosting, but it's also helpful for events that are happening in your community. And the reason I say that is because as somebody who's brand new running in politics at a municipal level, you essentially have no data to work from. Political parties at a provincial or federal level have lots of data and resources that they can hand down to the candidates. For municipal level, it's a very different experience. And so really those Facebook events help you. Let's say you had a cycling event or you had, here we go, Doors Open YYC. So that's not an event that you hosted. It's just an event that people are going to, and that aligns with your politics, or it might not align with your politics. But what's good is that you can then tag those people who all attended that event, and you're able to then again, further build that data set that we're going to talk about in a second regarding filtering. We found it very useful. So, we import things like pride events, family pride, because he's a school board trustee, Cabbage Town Festival, Regent Park Festival, St. Jamestown Festival. All those communities have their own festivals, and we import those. And what it helps us find out is who lives in those communities, who's going to these events, and there's some issue-based. So sometimes we've imported Black Lives Matter events, or sometimes we've imported cycling events, or all those types of events, because then we're able to tag people and say, oh, this person is interested in cycling. I don't know if any of you use Carrot. It's an app on your phone that tracks your steps and gives you points based on that. But we've even imported that so that we can see, oh, who's active in the community, who cares about that type of community building, right? So all of those are really important, and you might not see that it's important now, but you might later. And so that's why we do all that. So did you end up getting an event URL, Chris?
Oh, sorry, Tyler. I had connected it. I thought that you could have saw that. I've pasted an event URL there, which was the Doors Open.
Oh, perfect.
And I had connected it there.
Oh, okay, perfect. So then the first thing that you want to do when you do connect is, again, depending on whether it's your event or whether an event that you're importing that's not your event, is uncheck the box that says send email notifications. And it's just because if you're importing, a Pride event and then all of a sudden you're sending email notifications to everyone who RSVPs to that, it's not going to really make sense to them. And it doesn't really help the case. So first thing I always do is uncheck that and then save.
Just to note on that, Tyler, like it's worth noting that it'll only send it if that email already exists in your system. It's not like NationBuilder imports emails from random people that you don't know. It would email people that already are in your network and in your nation that have an email address, are emailable. If they RSVP'd to that public event, they might get a notification from your nation, which might be confusing.
Exactly. Yeah. Good clarification. So, I mean, and on that point, if Facebook is not importing, any of their contact information, what's the point? Well, the point is that you then have a name attached to events that are happening in the community, and you can then better connect with that person. So if this person always, a year down the road when you're actually campaigning, if this person has attended a lot of cycling events throughout the year, what you're going to be able to do when you're canvassing is actually connect with that person on an issue base. So be able to email, the list of people that you have, or connect with them at the door to say, hey, we noticed that, you're really interested in cycling, whatever it may be. So basically you're able to really target based on issue.
And I just want to just bring that to life a little bit, Tyler, again, just with a very specific example, because this nation actually has a lot of contacts that have been imported from primarily social sources. So for example, if you, one really helpful field is the Twitter bio. And so when you actually import Twitter contacts, it imports the bio, photo, and website link automatically. So one thing you can do then, if you say have, 3,000 community contacts from local events, like Tyler's saying, in your relevant ward or jurisdiction for your campaign, then you can do things like search the Twitter bio. So we could say, let's find people who have cycling in their Twitter bio, and who have, let's say, also contains, say, activist. Now, I don't, I'm just, taking a guess that so there's 3 people in the system that have cycling and an activist in their Twitter bio. So that is a quick demo of the way you can actually, even just by making sure that, in this case, Twitter contacts are in the system, how you can use that to target, and you might want to follow up if you had a particular event that related to that.
That's fantastic. Wait, stay there, Chris, because that's a great segue into the auto tagging and the filters kind of thing. So let's say you did search everyone who has cycling or activist in their bio. What you can do now is you can save filter as, and you can just save it as, I guess, cycling activist. So it's important to also note, you'll see that Chris put an underscore there. It's just because for NationBuilder, you have to use I guess they call it a machine name. So it has to be just characters only. You can't have any spaces. So we'll save that. Now, if you go up to the filter, so it's right there, yep. And if you edit that filter, so here, there's 2 things that you can do. One is you can share it with other nations. So let's say you're partnering with a city councilor. You could share that with either a city councilor or a school board trustee if you're running a co-campaign. You can share that specific tag and anybody who's tagged with that with the other nation. And as you both update their information, let's say one of you got their email address and the other one of you got their phone number, it would automatically update both of your nations in real time. Now, the one above that is the one that I really wanted to touch on, and that's people in this filter should have this tag. So let's say that, let's just say cycling activist as the tag. So what will happen is everybody who meets the criteria for this filter right now, so the 3 people who meet it, will be tagged with this. Now, every 24 hours, NationBuilder actually goes through all of these filters and auto tags based on that. So this is a really important feature, and it's been really important for us as well. So what happens is, let's say a 4th person was added to the nation with cycling and activist in their in the criteria, in their Twitter bio. you would then, they would automatically be tagged with cycling activists. You would never have to run that over and over again and continually tag them. So that's auto tagging. That's another thing that NationBuilder recently came out with. I think it was at the end, near the end of last year.
Yeah.
And it's really powerful because it basically allows you to set up what I call algorithms, where you can set up criteria and people are automatically tagged based on that criteria.
And I'll just,
So
just chime in there, Tyler, just quickly, which is just to say you can see that I saved it. And as soon as we saved that filter, all of those contacts, the 3, were tagged cycling activists. So as Tyler was saying, if another person, say, follows or is imported from one of the Twitter accounts that meets those criteria, they would also get that tag.
Yep. And likewise, let's say Susan here takes out activist from her Twitter bio, it'll automatically remove the tag from her. So yeah, it's a really powerful tool. One of the things that we even started to use it for now is demographic data. So we're actually able to create what we call tier algorithms of who's likely supporters, who's unlikely supporters based on the actions that they take, either on social media, at events, by contacting us, whatever it may be. And it auto tags them and sorts them into these tiers that we use. And I can't go into it too much in detail because it's a full, like that would be a full webinar on its own. But definitely, if anybody, you know, or if Chris, if you wanted to host a special webinar just for, you know, kind of algorithms and tiers and how we use them, I'd totally be up for that, or a video of some sort or something.
That'd be outstanding.
But yeah, I definitely be able to.
That would be outstanding, Tyler. We'll definitely do that.
So the next thing that's really good is auto districting. Auto districting is basically when somebody is inputted into your nation, or when you place somebody into your nation that has an address, they will automatically show up. Perfect. Yeah, so they will automatically show up in your nation and have a district. Now, what this means is that you'll find out what ward they live in the city of Toronto or any of the major cities. So if you're in Mississauga, Ottawa, Vancouver, I think Brampton now does it as well. So if you're in kind of those major cities, NationBuilder has worked with those municipalities to import the shape files, is what they call them, to be able to then auto district. So it's under location, Chris, and it's under voting district. Yep. So this person has a poll, so you can see that it automatically put them into their federal riding. Now, sorry, just to go up, the provincial poll there that says Logan 14, I believe that was done manually, because my understanding is that those are specific precincts, or, well, in Canada they're called polls. But
this nation is not the best demo of auto districting, because there's not a voter list in here with exact addresses. So this gives you sort of a sense. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, so that provincial poll at the top though, that is a manually entered field, and it's because you can manually put in polls. But if we scroll down, you'll see that there's federal riding. So they're in Winnipeg Center. You'll see that there's poll number. So that means that it'll actually tell you what federal poll they are in, and that's based off of the data from Elections Canada. Same thing with provincial and then municipal. And it doesn't really get down to, I mean, there's a bunch down there that really don't matter, like fire district and judicial district, but, and school board won't also will not auto-populate just because it's not something that is tracked separately, but definitely for the municipal district and the municipal poll. So municipal district is the ward, and municipal poll is obviously the poll number that they go vote in. So all of those will automatically populate based on an address. Chris, are you able to maybe, am I in that nation by chance?
Yeah, I'm actually just going to pull up I'm just looking to pull up an example of an auto-districted contact. So just
awesome.
Give me one moment.
Sure. So with auto districting, the reason why it's also really great and important is because as soon as you have someone's address, you don't need their full address. If you have their street name and street number, NationBuilder will automatically work with Google to bring in the postal code. Just make sure, one thing that I've learned is always make sure that there's a country, because sometimes that could not match up, and then that person won't be auto district. So you can see here, this person lives in the federal riding of Davenport, which is also the same as provincial. And then their municipal district is Ward 18, and their specific poll is poll 6 in Ward 18. So just to give you a bit of background,
all of that
if you don't
information
know,
was entered automatically based on the
registered address.
Registered address.
Mm-hmm. If you have an address under
actually, I think it was
home,
in this case, a billing address here, and by this person, you know, there we go. So
okay, yeah.
It's the primary address, and I think if registered address is used, it may pull that, right?
It should, yeah.
So voting districts as well. So that
and
was
on that note as well. So just so you know, the poll numbers, I'm not sure whether you've ever seen them in the municipal context, but they always start off with the ward number, 2 digits. So if it's Ward 1, it would be 01. And then the poll number is always 3 digits, so 006. Just so that you understand how that works.
And I should clarify that not every city in Canada has the shapefiles that allow NationBuilder to actually populate this auto districting. So not all jurisdictions have it. Believe it exists for Edmonton. I don't, unfortunately, believe it exists for Calgary yet, and that's definitely something that is important for NationBuilder to update. But also, I think it may be a matter of the city getting the data for NationBuilder. So if you're in Calgary, that's something that I'd be happy to connect on afterwards, and we can figure out with NationBuilder where that's at.
But if you have a connection and you have that shapefile, and it's just that the city does not make it available online, you can actually send that to support@nationbuilder.com, and they will take a look at it and import it, because that's what I had to do for Brampton. So just that you know, it is possible to for them to import shapefiles without the city providing them with that data. So that's auto districting. Again, that all of this data kind of becomes important when you're really trying to filter and whatnot. I think the only other thing I was going to mention with regards to auto districting and addresses is every once in a while you might want to go through your addresses and just clean them up a bit, because for us, especially now that we're canvassing every week, we found that, you know, some people's addresses were wrong because their billing address was different than their, let's say, their registered address. So you just want to go through and clean it up every once in a while to make sure that everyone's primary address is, and if you settle on something, that's fine, just settle on it. Just because then when you actually canvass, you don't have kind of wrong addresses. And as we know, the City of Toronto and a lot of cities, actually all municipalities in Canada, don't provide detailed information. It's just their name and then their address, and sometimes if they own or rent, and that's really it. You don't have a lot of information like they do in the US.
Tyler, I'll just one question that's come up, and can the municipal, provincial vote and provincial voters lists from Toronto be imported into NationBuilder now? And so that question from Alan. Alan, in terms of the actual voter file for in the United States, it's available, and basically in NationBuilder, you can, if you're in the States, you get access to that. That's just more of that they have NationBuilder is able to basically have a license for that voter list. In Canada, those lists are not made publicly available, and they're only made available to candidates in the election, and sometimes very late in the process. And so you can absolutely, if you have a voter list, maybe from a last election or from another source, you could definitely import that now into NationBuilder. However, there's no ability to basically get the voter list, or NationBuilder doesn't provide that as a service. not sure if that's the clearest way of explaining it. Tyler, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's correct. And NationBuilder will import the list for you if you send it to them. Just make sure that it has the proper headings and actually on the, I think, does everyone know how to import?
I think that we will go over in managing your contact data for your canvassing. That would be a longer conversation.
Perfect. Yeah, it is.
I will just say we've got a couple of questions coming in. So Tyler, before we go, I want to open it up for the rest of these questions, but I want to let you just wrap up your pieces first. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we move over to Q&A?
Yeah, I just want to mention just a last few things. Nothing to really show you on NationBuilder for this, but volunteer management using NationBuilder. I'm not sure whether any of you have had great successes with it. We are just trying it out now. It's not the greatest, to be honest, but it is good in terms of when someone signs up to volunteer on your website, we send them a Slack invite, and Slack is one of the tools that Chris talked about in a previous webinar. We use that to communicate with all of our volunteers. So as soon as they sign up to volunteer, it sends them an automatic email inviting them to our Slack. Then what happens is if they sign up for shifts, which we've set up as specific events within NationBuilder, it'll send them an email with a Google Doc that explains how to canvas, so that they can get some pre-training done before the actual canvas, and then we also have set up automated text messages that go out based on filtering. So anybody who has RSVP'd to that event, we've automatically filtered, and I've gone into some advanced stuff, but I'm just kind of letting you know what's possible. So we have tried it. It's not the most extensive, especially considering that there's a lot of other ways to manage volunteers, but I just wanted to give you that heads up. For actual shifts, we don't use those yet within NationBuilder. We probably will next year, but just a word of caution. When you create shifts, you can't actually email people automatically based on what shift they've chosen. You have to manually email those people. So that's a bit tedious, and that's what we found so far with NationBuilder, and that's why we don't use that. But again, we're gonna continue and to try it out next year and see what happens. We don't have anything too extensive right now. So the volunteer management is one. Two
Tyler,
is,
how are you using Paths for volunteer management, or are you using Paths for volunteer management right now?
We do. We have marked all of our past volunteers as prospective volunteers on a path, and then they go along the path as they. So if they've become a volunteer this year, then we move them along that path. Yes, exactly. Actually, exactly how it's set up here is pretty much how we've set it up. They're a potential volunteer. Have we asked them to volunteer? Have they signed up? And then have we confirmed? Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how we use it. When you actually get to constituency management, I'm not sure if any of you are working for currently elected officials, but constituency management is really great with paths too, because what we've done is we've set up every single type of issue on a path. So once they email us, they're on a path called email inbox, and then we move them to a step on the path depending on what their issue is. So we can then see all of the people who have emailed us or called us about let's say bike lanes, and then we're able to make sure that we've contacted all those people. And then once their issue is done, once their case is closed, then we actually remove them from that path, and then they start the path over again if they've emailed or called us.
Great. Thanks, Tyler. I'd like to now at this point open it up to questions. Tyler, is there anything else you want to touch on, or are we good to move to Q&A?
Just two quick notes. One is, please make sure that you also don't only use, there's a deduplication file within NationBuilder. You also want to make sure that you're exporting your list and deduplicating it yourself as well. If you know people who can run quick algorithms using Excel, it's really useful. We pay, just to give you a sense of like how big our nation is now, we pay about $500 a month. And it can get quite costly. So we're almost up to our next level, and we're constantly keeping our list down. So we're constantly merging people And the reason I say that is because NationBuilder does not merge two people if they have the same phone number, only if they have, you know, the same like other features. And so what we found is that there's a lot of people in our nation who have a last name, a first initial, and then the same phone number. And those are actually the same people. It's just NationBuilder hasn't marked them as such because there wasn't enough data for NationBuilder to determine that. So that keeps your costs low. And then finally, just as a quick final note, we use 3 different apps. And I know, Chris, you'll be going over some apps later on, but I just wanted to quickly mention them just so that they're out there for both you and the participants. We use eCanvasser, Call Hub, and we also use Hustle. And those are really effective in helping us engage people and bring more data into our nation.